Hey guys, I'm Wihongi. We're here going to talk a little bit about some knife tactics. First, want to preface this with a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to talk a little bit about the how in these techniques, but we're not going to get too much into the when, where, and why. Understanding that anytime you're using deadly use of force, it's got to be within the bounds of the law. You got to understand what your local use of force laws are in defense of person, property, so on and so forth. So that's our disclaimer. Make sure you use these things responsibly. So what we're going to get into is a position, we call it an arm triangle with a knife. Okay. So this particular technique is, we're going to talk a little bit about the technique itself, how to enter into it, and then some examples of specific entries versus specific types of attacks. So I'm going to use my buddy Jake here is going to be my training partner. So what we're going to talk about first is kind of the entry point. So when we talk about different entry points and control of the arm, whenever you're dealing with an edge weapon, your primary, your first priority should be self-preservation, keeping yourself in the fight. And so you got to prevent him from being able to continually cause you damage, control his weapon-bearing limb. So as I do that, again, a lot of my focus is going to be here, preferably on the outside line, just like I am here. If I'm on the inside line here, then I got to deal with other threats, his other arm, which I'll have to deal with here anyway, but he's not going to be able to use them as effectively. Okay. From this position, I'm trying to enter in what we call the number 2 sector. If my arm is on top here, okay, we call this the 1 sector. Okay, this would be the 2 sector. If this arm was on top, this is a 3 and a 4 sector. So I'm entering here on the 2 sector. I need to create the window here by pushing his arm up and then entering this arm in here. Okay, and so as I enter in here, I'm entering into this position, which can be often called an arm triangle. Now, if I'm doing with the knife, it's going to be essentially the same thing. Okay, I'm entering in from this position and I'm entering to this 2 sector. I'm going to again talk about the position itself first before we explain how to get into the position. And I'm entering here, and I can again tighten the position up, and then I can use the knife as a secondary. Now this in and of itself can be an effective choke, okay? But I'm using the knife to, it's going to be a faster way to make this an effective technique, again using a higher level of force. So I can start entering in with the knife into the spine if I needed to, okay, the neck area. Even without a real blade, this is going to be very painful, a lot of force driving that into the spine at the back of the neck. And we're going to just kind of talk about dealing with one of the most common types of attacks with an edge weapon is a low-line thrust. Okay, you know, the low-line thrust is and the high-line psycho type stab are the 2 most common knife attacks. We're going to deal with this first one here. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 things as this attack comes towards me. I'm going to do my best to get off of the line of the attack using footwork and body angle. Meaning body angle, I'm going to try and move my body off the line of the attack, and I'm going to use my feet to get offline also. Combination of the 2, moving my body, moving my feet, and angling my body. The third component of this triangle concept of counter-offense is using my hands to intercept that attack, okay? And we're just going to use a very gross motor, what we call a hack, okay? I'm hacking down on his arm. I'm not trying to stab his arm. That takes too much precision and timing and precision, and versus a full speed knife attack, it's going to be very difficult to try and stab his arm. So I'm using what we call a bisecting line principle. Big target weapon versus a big target. Bisecting the line, hacking the arm, very gross motor motion. But as soon as I've done that, I need to prevent him from being able to retract his arm and stab again. So as soon as I enter in, I'm bringing this hand here to the tricep area, okay, with my thumb up particularly, and I'm pushing and entering in, okay, because I want to prevent him from being able to withdraw his arm and stab again. So again, it's 1, 2, and then entering into this position here, okay. And once I'm in here, I need to be quick and decisive in my action, because if I dwell here, he's going to start thinking or being able to instinctively perform countermeasures. So speed, surprise, aggressive action to decisively finish that altercation. So again, the movement is moving with my feet, offline, hacking in, entering through here, and controlling, squeezing it through. I could continue down to the ground here. I could sweep this leg here, okay, with this position, okay, or I could cross stomp it here, okay, and just to break his balance and continue to the ground as we go through with that technique also. Okay, so that's the kind of a fundamental entry. Every component of it is important. It's very gross motor, but every component has to be present, otherwise it creates openings for counters.
You're talking about him recoiling that arm back, and
Correct.
you did this quite slow. What happens if you're not able to get to where you need to be? So Jake, maybe try to pull it back and go for another.
If he pulls it back on that side, then that's going to be good for me, because I can, even if his elbow is tucked and I can't get under, then I just move over to the number 1 sector, and so I've got under positive control. If he retracts it back that way, okay, and here, okay, I need to what we call chase it, meaning if I don't, he's going to just stab again. Okay, so as he withdraws it, I'm chasing that, and is what we call the principle of zero pressure. I want to move back as far as his arm will go back. Okay, and at the same time, I'm seeking targets with my primary weapon. Okay, so we call it the zero pressure principle, meaning I chase it as far as his arm will go without him moving back. And if he moves back, I move with him. So I'm continuing that motion. Okay, so it's here. I can't get under it, so he withdraws it. I follow it, and I seek targets here. I'm only buying myself a very small, narrow window of opportunity, so I have to be, again, quick and decisive with my counterattack.
You know, you talked about not staying in that moment, being really, really aggressive. Let's freeze a moment in time. What can he possibly do if he happened to find that moment?
Okay, well, you know, prior to the entry, or you mean after the entry's been achieved?
After the entry.
You know, it's really difficult. If he's a bigger, taller, stronger person, there's a potential he could disbalance me, maybe even get me a little bit off my feet a little. So what's kind of going to be important at that point is when I've entered in, okay, to this position, is that, and again, I can set it up first by drawing it in, then turning. But if I start chopping that down, okay, so what I mean by that is if you kind of look at what the feet are doing, I basically just stop right there, okay, and then continue. So if I'm getting a lot of resistance at that point, I can do that. The reason why personally I like the cross stomp versus a calf sweep is the calf sweep, I relinquish a little bit of control because my hips go from facing towards him to facing side by side. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, if we enter in here and I turn here, okay, so that position here, and now I'm side by side, and then I could do this, okay, but I've lost a little bit of this control up top also. I like to keep the hips facing here, draw it in, okay, and then while facing towards him, I can stomp downward there and continue to control that as we go down, because if I don't control that, what's he going to do? Slice through here, right? So as we go down, I went from here to here, and then I can cut out and then continue with whatever's necessary after that.
Now, if this wasn't move by move, step by step, something that anybody would really want to do, what skills are you learning by drilling this, by trying to get there?
This is the methodology, okay? We're doing this all with knives, okay? But say I didn't have a knife, okay? And this is an empty hand defense. Okay, I can come in here, okay, and continue that there. If he's got that knife in the hand, I may not look for the submission. I may go down here and then look to control, and hit a couple times, disengage, or once I'm here, this may be my opportunity for a disarm. Okay, and that's kind of why it's important to understand disarms, because I want to be able to recognize that window of opportunity. When I've got his arm in control, stabilized, then you can go for that disarm. Yeah. See, here I may go to here, okay, or I may control the arm and look for that disarm at that point. So if his arm's not straightening out, I can just go to here. If his arm straightens out, then I can go to here. I can heel stomp, look for attacks on. You gotta, without getting too sophisticated with it, you gotta look for possibilities, but also think about, in reality, is that my opportunity to disengage altogether?
Jared, just in case people wonder, I am asking you to do it really, really slowly,
Sure.
unnaturally slowly, so that people can learn. Here comes the inside.
Okay, let's do it again. It's a little slower. I'm hacking through, moving off line, pushing up, entering in, and then immediately shooting this arm in. I could be shooting into a punch right here, or a face strike, but I'm coming past here and clinching here. Okay? In this position, I'm getting my head tucked in. From this point here, I can actually get pretty tight there. Okay? And then from this position, I can stomp the foot, swing him to the ground. I might throw and disengage.
Hey, can you switch knife hands at all when you're locked in?
He can. I'll tell you right now, he can.
Yeah.
And this is my kind of take on that. We call it the switcheroo. Okay. But you'll find that in training, people only really, if you observe training, people only really think about that after the third or fourth repetition, and at slow, speeds. If this is a dynamic thing, people aren't thinking in the middle of that to switch the hand while the head is going towards the cement.
But even then, how difficult is it physiologically to switch? Just for my own understanding.
So,
trapped.
look here.
Yeah.
He can switch. So that's why everything has to be, those three elements have to be present, right? Speed. So if you're quick, he's not gonna have time to change it. Surprise. In the training environment, after 4 repetitions, there's no more surprise, right? On the street, if you're able to pull something like this off, they didn't know what was about to happen. So you've got that element of surprise in your favor still, and violent, aggressive action. Like I said, I'm going in hard, I'm trying to disrupt his ability to orientate, right? We call his ability to process his OODA loop. And if he can't orientate himself to what the heck is just going on, then it's going to be less likely he's going to be able to make a decision, like switching hands, and act on that. So I got to be dynamic, speed, surprise, violent, aggressive action in this case. So there's the possibility there, it exists. Most people are going to think about that? No. And like I said, even in a training environment, I've taught this techniques of this nature to hundreds, if not thousands of people, and it takes a few repetitions for people to even think about switching hands. So in the street, unless someone has rehearsed that, then it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. It exists, the possibility exists.
It took me like 10 repetitions for me to even, wait a minute, you can switch hands.
Exactly, and that's very common. Like I said, people, unless they've rehearsed that and trained that, they're not going to think of that spur of the moment.
Right on. Thank you, Jared.
Yep.